Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It is April of 2018. The year is clipping along quite quickly yet again, sadly. Now, first things first, be sure to click that stupid notification bell. Because if you don't, you'll probably not get any notifications from me. And I said notifications really weird just now. You won't get any notifications from me. I know this because I've been receiving a bunch of private messages from people saying, "Oh, I didn't know you put this up. Oh, I didn't know you put that up." And that goes a long way towards explaining why the view counts have been so low recently. If nobody knows I put something up, well, they're not going to be able to watch it now, are they? But then again, this very statement is kind of a catch-22. If you're watching this and that means you somehow were notified that I put this up, and telling people that don't get the notifications to click that to get notifications, well, if they're not watching it, they can't know to do that, which means there's no point to saying it, but I said it anyway because reasons. On a positive note, as I was assembling the lighting equipment to make this vlog, I noticed that I got an update through Steam. The fan known as CD has gifted me a copy of Betrayer, which is a first-person game of some description set in 1609. At least that's what I've read off of the little update thing. I even had a funny little message for me saying it's not a Skyrim remaster, thankfully. Although I've not played the Skyrim remaster, mainly because the Skyrim remaster is not compatible with all the mods, and so I'm sticking with the original one. But anyway, I don't know if the game's any good. I've never heard of it until literally just now, but I highly appreciate it. And I will be taking a look at it after this vlog has concluded. Now, if you support me on Patreon, and if you support me on Patreon with just $1, you get to have all the little updates before everyone else does. I usually will update with the progress of videos. I will update what's going to come out next. And so if you've supported me on Patreon for $1, $1 USD, you already know what reviews I'm going to announce today. And the reviews I'm going to announce today are as follows. The game review for this month is Star Trek Elite Force 2. And the gun review for this month, which shouldn't fall afoul of Googlog's rather draconian firearm policy, it will be the H&R Partner Pump, which is just a simple little 12-gauge pump-action shotgun that is based on the Remington 870. Well, actually, it's just a direct clone. But if you supported me on Patreon, you would already know that. In fact, if you supported me on Patreon, you would already know what next month's reviews are going to be. Oh dear. Insider information indeed. Now, Star Trek Elite Force 2, as of this recording, I'm not that hopeful for it. Why? I've played about half the game, and I'm actually pretty disappointed. Maybe the other half is way better. I don't know. I'm going to finish it this week, but so far, pretty disappointed. Excuse me there. Pretty disappointed, mainly because of the following reasons. One, voice acting is not nearly as good as Elite Force 1. Two, the game design is good, but it falls afoul of a similar issue seen in Elite Force 1. In Elite Force 1, you had a bunch of enemies, but they were so weak, and they barely did any damage to you. In Elite Force 2, there's less enemies, but they do more damage, but there's less combat instances, which means the game can kind of drag on a little bit. The game is much more puzzle-heavy, which is fine, but it does need to be balanced with good combat. One of the problems with Elite Force 2, and this is a problem in a number of games, is its prologue is better than most of the game. The prologue in Elite Force 2 is great. You're on the Borg sphere, seen at the very end of Star Trek Voyager, and you're shooting drones, you're solving puzzles, and it's great. And then the game comes to a screeching halt when you get out of that. It's where you then face, you know, enemies that can't shoot back to shooting bugs again, and there's just not enough of them to really be that fun. The game, sadly, falls afoul of the issue of, yeah, I'm having a lot of fun, and then it stops. And then, yeah, I'm having a lot of fun, and then it stops. And so far, it's been pretty disappointing on that front. On the voice acting front and story front, it's bad. It's a pretty big loser on that. The thing is, the developers, Ritual Entertainment, also known for making Sin, a late 90s FPS that I have not played but do own on GOG, they decided to hire Sir Patrick Stewart. Now, this sounds like it might be a good idea, right? It's Patrick Stewart, you know, Captain Picard. Everybody loves him. But you know what? He wants a lot of that. He wants that money. He's Captain Picard. You know, he wants that money. And so they paid him that money, which means they didn't have any money for other voice actors. This is a problem when you hire celebrity voice actors. The game does suffer because of it. With Sir Patrick Stewart, all that money went to him. So the only other voice actor that returns from Star Trek is Tim Russ, and he does a pretty good job. I like the fact that he's in there, but you got Tim Russ and Patrick Stewart. That's it. The other voice actors suck. Now, the voice actors for, I almost said Silic, I can't remember his name. Crewman Chell, there we go. Crewman Chell, Monroe, Male Monroe, and Telsia. They all come back, but their performances are pretty phoned in compared to the first games. It really contrasts that to the first game, where the entire main cast of Voyager was there, and they really added a pretty big air of legitimacy. Now, I do know that Jerry Ryan did not voice 7 of 9 initially in Elite Force 1, and it wouldn't be until, I think, Virtual Voyager came out. I didn't talk about Virtual Voyager in the review for Elite Force 1, mainly because it already was 37 minutes long, and I had to cut something. I don't think it would be until Virtual Voyager that Jerry Ryan would come back, but she still came back, so she was still there. In Elite Force 2, you've got Patrick Stewart, Tim Russ, and the original people from Elite Force. Everyone else sucks. I swear they got the voice actor who voiced Velma and Scooby-Doo to voice like half the bloody female characters in the game, and she is terrible. Like, the voice for Velma does not work in Star Trek. The other male voice actors just sound so phoned in, it's not even funny. The story starts off strong. It really does. It starts off strong. You got the Voyager endgame, which actually made it better. Then you got, you know, what now for the Elite Fours, now that they're back in the Alpha Quadrant. And then the rest of it just falls apart. It gets really dull. You've got another bug enemy that doesn't make any sense for them to be able to be as powerful as they are. The thing that really just made me just facepalm, the double Picard facepalm, was the main enemy you fight has its own personal impulse engine. Now, for those who don't know, the impulse engine is a sublight propulsion system, meaning they're not going at, like, say, 500 miles an hour or 500 kilometers for our people in those less advanced countries. They're going at fractions of c, which means they're going very, very fast. One of the funny things about knowing more about the science of space travel and things of that nature is when you hear stuff like that, they get their own personal impulse engine. So realistically, if they fly at you, the whole base that they're on should literally explode from the kinetic energy imparted. Yeah, that doesn't happen, but still, it's just so stupid. It's just one line. One line to say, oh, they can fly. How hard would that be? Don't tell me they have their own personal impulse engine. That's really stupid. Now, spoiler alert, but then again, it's a show from 1996. There's an episode in Voyager where Catherine Janeway, this is one of the times where she really shines, by the way, crashes her ship into another ship. Realistically, she should be moving so fast that you don't actually see the explosion. She should be moving that fast, faster than the blink of an eye. Because she's moving at a fraction of a degree. The ship, Voyager, should be moving at a fraction of the speed of light. So, pretty fast. There's actually a Warhammer 40k book that has something similar happen to it. But anyway, it makes sense that that doesn't happen because it wouldn't be very dramatic. There has to be a big explosion, and, well, it's TV. If it's just, boop, that's not very entertaining. In a book, however, you can describe what happens. Because there's a similar thing that happens in Warhammer. No, it's a Horus Heresy book. Which one was it? I'm trying to remember. There's like 40 books in that goddamn series. What book was that? It's where the word bearers attack the Ultramarines. Whichever one that is. Anyway, the word bearers are in a freighter, and they move that to a fraction of a degree C, right? Which is fast. Or not a fraction of a degree C. Move a fraction of C, right? It's really fast. They crash it into one ship. Or they crash it into a space station. They crash it into something. It doesn't matter what it crashes into. It happens in the blink of an eye, and literally the explosion is so powerful it wipes out like half the Ultramarine fleet. And so that's really what should have happened when Voyager crashed into the ship. You know, it should have just been, boop, exploded. But it wouldn't look cool. In a book, it was really described quite cool. I want to know. It's a Graham McNeil book. It was a really good one, actually. One of the best of the Horus Heresy series. Let's see. I kind of went on a tangent there. 40K, you know, 40K, they're under attack from the SJWs, as you would expect. Honestly, you know, I don't really care because I don't really play the actual tabletop game. But it is funny that the SJWs are taking over literally every franchise I ever loved. Thankfully, I better not say this too loud, Alien and Predator are just kind of like flying under the radar, so they're safe for the time being. But like 40K, Star Wars, Star Trek is long gone. Star Trek's long gone. But you know, it's really quite interesting to go back to Voyager, though. I actually was inspired to rewatch some Voyager episodes after doing the review of Elite Force 1. It's not as bad of a show as the internet would make it out to be. I do reckon... The thing is, like, you gotta look up different lists of, like, what are the top 10 best Voyager episodes. There's more than 10. But, like, just off the top of my head, one of the best... It was a two-parter. And that is, of course... I can't remember the name! I just watched it yesterday. You know, when you get old, your brain just starts cooking itself. Oh, what was it called? Year of Hell. I wanted to say Future Imperfect. I knew it was a time... Future Imperfect isn't a time travel episode, and that's a TNG one. But Year of Hell, absolutely excellent two-parter. Really shows what Janeway is supposed to be. It's where all the writing is actually good. Kurtwood Smith is an excellent villain. And the entire plot is just great. I mean, it feels like a movie in terms of its quality. I think Voyager, if they had some really good, had more good writers, you know, it would have been a great show. Catherine Janeway is a great captain when she's written appropriately. The same thing is with Captain Archer. You know, when he actually, in season 4, when they finally got some good writers, he was great. I remember the one scene with Captain Archer, in fact, I showed a still from that, where he was trying to get, you know, the Andorians and Tellarites to finally cooperate. That was really good. That was Star Trek. That is what everyone had wanted to see since Enterprise had started up. It was like, and I love the line where he's like, "I'm not gonna be rude to you to make you feel at home. I'm not going to just listen to your arrogance to make you feel comfortable. Why don't we start acting like humans?" And then, like, the Tellarites, like, "Oh, I thought you weren't joking." And Archer looks like up. He's ready to kick his ass for saying that. That I liked. I loved that. That was one of the reasons why I don't look upon Enterprise that poorly. Is because they finally started getting it right. And I completely went off topic. But yeah, that's the two reviews. Let's see, where was I? 2 reviews. I might try to get some more live streams in. Just haven't really had the time, as I always... That seems to be a constant refrain these days. I am planning on for like the live streams to just be some Doom Watch. Something easy. Something that allows me to be able to pay attention to the game and the chat at the same time, because it's not an easy prospect to do. As I have found some interesting Doom Wads. I highly recommend looking up the Doom Wad Oblivion. Although I almost finished it last night, but for some reason something didn't trigger in one of the last levels of the WAD, which was quite annoying. But I was playing with Project Brutality, and Project Brutality is known for doing that at times. Also, Project Zero, although it's spelled a little differently. It's spelled Zero as in like the character Zero from Quake 3. A very good Quake 2 inspired WAD as well. Let's see. I was thinking about discussing a few political matters, stuff that's been going on. You know, YouTube is cracking down on gun channels because reasons. It's actually quite funny how that works. You know, guns are evil, but drugs are good. You know, so like there's still like drug-based... I didn't even know this existed. Drug-based YouTube channels are not faced with any sort of problems whatsoever, but if you review an AR-15, oh man, you're the scum of the earth. It's quite ridiculous, if I do say so myself. There is one thing I did want to discuss, though, and that is the concept of why is the world as messed up as it is? You know, we often sit around going, oh, we live on a blighted star. I think that's from, like, some literary book, but I can't remember what it's called. Whatever. We live on a belated star. No, we don't. We live on a fucking planet. Stars in the heat and gas. But that being said, you know, the reason people do the things they do is because that is the very nature of humanity. For humanity to be individuals, you have to have good and bad. You have to have all kinds. And not everyone is going to see things the way that you do. You know, even something as simple of, is a glass half empty or is the glass half full? You know, nobody can even really agree on that, much less anything of a higher concept. That's why, you know, two different people can get two different meanings out of something, you know. And that's one of the things. You know, we have so many different people with so many different mindsets, and not all of them are going to agree. And for me, I usually don't, actually I don't even have a problem. You can believe whatever you want to believe. The only thing I say is, don't try to force me to believe the way you believe. And I think that's how a great many people are today. You know, the big problem with the SJWs is, it's not so much that they just want to be able to be left alone and believe the way they want to believe. They want you to believe they believe. And if you don't do that, they want to be able to smack you around a bit. Punch a Nazi, as they like to say. Even though they're the ones acting more like the National Socialists than anyone else. And that's one of the big problems. Realistically, your average person, regardless of what the media may tell you, just wants to be left alone to live their own lives. Because when you actually have a life to live, when you're not just, you know, sitting in front of a computer typing all day, or living on your parents' money, life is hard enough to live as it is. You know, that's the thing. Like, you have to have money. You have to have money for rent. You know, you have to have money for gasoline, car repair, all the various upkeep. You know, it's like, life is not an easy thing to live just to live it. You know, much less do anything else. And that, I think, is something that a lot of these SJWs don't understand, because they don't have lives like that. They just live on their parents' money, or they're rich, or something like that. So they don't understand it, because they don't know, because they never lived it. Ignorance really is one of the biggest problems with society today. And it's been the biggest problem since humanity was able to gain sapience, you know. Ignorance really is the big problem. You know, I see all sorts of ignorance all the time. Even people... One of the things I always end up having to do when I talk to people, you know, is I usually have to point out some sort of logic flaw or a gap in information. I don't do it like, oh, I'm so much smarter than you. It's like, well, no, that doesn't actually exist, or no, this doesn't work that way. One of the things I'm reminded of is, there was a good friend of mine I was talking to the other day, and I don't remember how this topic even came up, but it was the concept of science and religion. And you know, they were talking about, and it's a common mindset today that science and religion don't go together. Those Charlie churches, they don't believe in science, and that is absolutely not true. But if all you know is the media perception of science and religion, you wouldn't know to even ask a question about it. You know, it's the same way with gun ownership. You know, it's like all gun owners, you know, are a certain kind of person. However, the reality is much different. We often just sort of take what other people say as the gospel truth, you know. It's like, well, Jimmy Kimmel said this, or this person who is well-respected said that. That doesn't necessarily mean they know that even they know what they're talking about. Critical thinking is a word that has, or is a term that has sadly been corrupted over the years. Critical thinking now is like, well, think the way this person thinks, therefore, that's critical. You know, that's not really true. Critical thinking means you question everything. You've got to question everything, because everyone, even me, has some sort of bias in what they're saying. You know, I care about what I say. I might be wrong about something. I might not be right about everything. So you have to ask yourself, do you believe what this person is saying? And I think that's a very important thing. Oh, I've talked to so many people that just take so much on the gospel truth. Even I've done it in the past, and likely will continue to do it in the future. It's something that all of us have to watch out for. Don't just believe everything you see, hear, and read, because it may not be true. And it might not even be something where someone's lying. It might just be they didn't know to begin with, and they thought what they were saying was true. So what you have to do, critical thinking requires you to go, why are they saying it? What information did they use? And then you have to compare it to other bits of information. It's something that needs to be done. The reason why SJWs sound so utterly insane is because most of what they're saying is predicated on complete and total ignorance of the subject matter. They don't know. They don't really care to know, because it's really a vicious cycle with the SJWs. They don't know. They don't care to know, so they never learn, simply because, as far as they're concerned, they already know, and anything anyone else has to say is nothing more than a lie or propaganda. It's the high school concept, although I didn't have this when I was growing up. The concept is, you're so much smarter than everyone who's ever come before that there's no reason to listen to them. Oh, those old codgers, they know nothing. The reality is, you don't know anything, but you think you do. To sound really pretentious, because I am, if I claim to be a wise man, it surely means I do not know. The thing that you'll find out as you try to study and as you try to learn more and more, as you seek truth, truth is a journey that you take. It's not just something you can find. As you seek truth, you will learn that you know nothing at all. Or, as one of my uncles put it, the more you learn, the more you find out that you don't know anything at all. I had an uncle who sadly passed away a number of years ago. Actually, not even a number of years ago, like 2 years ago. He was very much a scholar. He was very much, he had some degree. I remember, well, for the longest time, I just assumed it was a master's in computer science, but I think it was something else. It was in that similar field, because he was a high-level guy. You know, he was somebody who studied all the time. Like I remember his old house just completely filled wall to wall with bookshelves. That's the house I want. It's like just wall to wall with books covering a wide variety of topics. You know, and one of the things he was talking about, obviously before he died, he wasn't talking to me beyond the grave, was biographies. Biographies are an interesting thing to read because there's multiple biographies for multiple historical characters, and none of them are really going to say, well, a lot of them say different things. No one can really agree on certain details, and some biographies will have more details, some will have less, some of the dates will be different, some of the events will be different, and it's interesting to read the differences between two different biographies. And it's like, well, which one is true? And the answer probably is there's a little bit from column A and a little bit from column B. But the fact is, though, when it comes to searching for truth, it's a never-ending journey. You never know anything. You just know a little bit more than you used to. It's taking stuff just because somebody said it is not good enough. You have to learn. You got to use this. I always say this, because that's one of the reasons why, you know, there are events that happen in the world that I really want to comment on, that I really want to make, you know, YouTube videos on. But one of the things I realized just yesterday is it's kind of pointless. I could sit here and I could read to you an article off the internet, and it would do absolutely no good. Because all I'm doing is just regurgitating what I'm reading. That's not causing any of you to think. You have to think about it. You have to... The thing is, I can't teach you how to think. You have to kind of learn that yourself. Growing up, you know, I wasn't taught what to think. I wasn't told, this is the truth. I was told, you know, you have to seek the truth yourself and come up with your own opinion, come up with your own determination from the facts, you know, and that is something that you have to do. I'm not just going to sit here and regurgitate to you, oh, here's something stupid that happened today. You know, usually you guys would already know it anyway. There's plenty of, you know, YouTube channels that talk about current events and things of that nature. The thing is, for me, I just like to encourage people to think. Because it does me no good, and it does you no good, just to have stuff regurgitated at you. You have to seek that truth to understand why things are like they are. You have to understand why. Why is a very important question. Why is this? What led to this? What was the cause? Why is this the effect? It's all very important. And it's just... It's one of those things that's a big failing of the modern day school system. You're taught you know, bubble in this answer, bubble in that answer. You're taught how to take a test. You're not taught to understand why the answer is what it is. If all you've been taught is just go down the line bubbling in the answer, look for just the main idea, then that's what you'll do with the media. You know, here's what this guy said. Well, it has to be true. He's on TV, right? And so that's the answer I was looking for, so it must be right. And the real world doesn't work that way. Simple as that. The real world is indeed shades of gray. And what might seem right on one hand may not be right in reality. It all requires thought. I always just will encourage thinking. I could sit here and tell you why the Second Amendment is important, but that wouldn't do anything. You have to understand why it's important up here instead of just going, the Second Amendment is important because it's part of the American culture and it's in the Constitution. If you don't know why any of that, what the meaning behind any of that is, you won't understand it just because I told you what it was. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I am through with my political diatribe, even though I don't think it was really political. I'm through talking about telling people to think. Okay, so before we call it the end of a vlog, what do we got? I do recommend reading the novel The Magician. I read that a little while ago. A very good novel. It's from the late 70s. The writer in his foreword, because I read the, I think it was a 1991 revision, he was saying that he started out just wanting to write a rollicking good yarn. And ladies and gentlemen, was it ever? The Magician follows a number of different characters from their early lives to when they are like middle-aged. I don't think they're middle-aged, I think late 20s. It starts up with a character named Pug, who is just a keep boy. And it goes through his life as he learns different things. It's really quite cool. He had a lot of good character development. And there's some other characters as well that it starts early and then ends where they are high level. It's really quite good. I highly recommend it. The characters are great. The universe is great. It's part of the Rift War saga, apparently a 30-plus book series that I'd never heard of until I just picked up The Magician randomly. Very much worth reading. I also recommend taking a look at the Schooled in Magic series. I also read that like a week ago. It's supposed to be a young adult fantasy series, and you know what? Young adult books seem to be really, really depressing. Because like you got the Hunger Games, Maze Runner. This book really isn't depressing, but it was better than I thought it would be. It was written by Christopher Nuttall, who's one of my favorite writers in the modern era. And it's a really good series. It follows a girl named Emily. She gets kidnapped from our world and sent to a magical world, and she's a sorceress, or a sorceress in training. And she has to go to not Hogwarts, called Whitehall. The guy's British, and it comes across quite well. But she has to go to Whitehall and like fight necromancers, and it's really quite good. I didn't think I'd like it, just because I'm not a big fan of the whole magical girl/magical school genre. But I gave it a chance, and it's pretty good. I'm actually on book 2 right now. It's absolutely, it's a rollicking good yarn. Also, I recommend, because I've read this too, I read a lot, as you guys can imagine. I recommend reading the fanfic Task Force 47. I think it's on spacebattles.com. Spacebattles.com I normally don't like, just because a lot of the posters are really quite annoying, but you can find a good poster here and there. But it's a very good little Babylon 5 Star Trek crossover. I actually started reading that a number of years ago, and I didn't like it that much then, simply because I knew absolutely nothing about Babylon 5. But last year, I finally sat through all 5 seasons of Babylon 5, and Babylon 5 is great. It's an absolutely excellent show. Great characters. The special effects are very special, but, you know, graphics don't make the game, and special effects don't make a story. One of the things that's kind of annoying about well, it's not annoying about Babylon 5. It's annoying about the fandom, though. The Babylon 5 fandom will range from, we like Babylon 5, to Babylon 5 is better than every sci-fi show ever. Or, as some idiot put it, Babylon 5 is Star Trek for adults. Seriously. Babylon 5, excellent sci-fi series. If you haven't seen it, I don't think it's on Netflix. The DVDs which is how I watched it. You can get like the entire series for like $80, and let me tell you, it was worth every penny because it was a really good show. Season 5 isn't very good, if only because they were going to get canceled in Season 4. So they wrapped everything up in Season 4, and then Season 5 was like, well, we're back, sort of. And, yeah, Season 5 is not very good. But Season 1 through 3, excellent. Season 4, they often complain about, like, they had to really rush it. But I think, I don't think they rushed it as bad as the internet would lead you to believe. They definitely had to pick up the pace. But I think that was actually a good thing, because you'll notice a lot of series today are really quite short compared to what they used to be. So I generally prefer it when a lot of the filler is cut out, although sometimes filler can be good. There's a Season 1 episode where one of the main characters and another main character have to fix a motorbike, I think it was a Yamaha. Anyway, it was really cool, and I found it to be quite enjoyable. And last, but certainly not least, we're 30 minutes? Holy crap, 31 minutes? 31 minutes and 2 seconds? 3 seconds. I can better hurry up. Jurassic World. I finally saw it. I think it came out in 2015. Man, it was great. But not the way they hoped. Let me tell you this. That movie was, by no stretch of the imagination, a loser. The characters were terrible. Well, no. It wasn't so much that the characters were terrible. It's just that there weren't any. Let me tell you this. The main character, played by Chris Pratt, he had so little character that his rifle, his Marlin Trapper rifle, had more character than he did. I was rooting for the rifle more than I was him. The kid characters in it were so dull that, man. And the woman character, oh God. The plot was so lazy it wasn't even funny. It took 2 writers. Because I watched the fucking credits, and there were 2 writers on that thing. It's like, okay, you tell it, okay. The movie was lazy. I'm going to tell you that. The movie was lazy. It's like, we need dinosaurs out eating people. So, what do? We make the Super T-Rex. Well, I called him what he was, Godzilla. We're gonna make Godzilla, alright? And that means people will go watch Godzilla. And then it was even worse. It's like, okay, well, the military wants to use Godzilla and the Velociraptors in combat. Anyone who knows anything about the modern-day military, which I guess the writers didn't, even though a quick Google search would let them know, you do realize we have mortars that can go like 5 miles. That's just the mortars. Or what about 1855 howitzers or 1055, whatever. The fucking artillery pieces. They can be fucking radar guided to hit like 10 miles away. Your fucking dinosaurs aren't going to be able to do anything. They can get blown up before they even show up. And then what about tanks? The fucking M1A1 Abrams can like shoot on the move. And that's not even getting into planes. The goddamn B-2 bomber can take off from North Carolina, drop a bomb in Korea, and fly back. Your dinosaur isn't going to do that. What's the point? And then it's like, it's the little things. Now, keep in mind, I wasn't pissed off at the movie. I was watching it with friends, and we just made fun of it the entire time. Now, if you like the movie, fine. I'm not making fun of you. It's just the movie is a pretty big loser when it comes to logic, and even some of the special effects look like crap. It's like, they look really phony. But it was fun nonetheless. But it's like, okay, there's 2 things that stick out of my mind that make absolutely no sense. Now, you're like, well, nothing makes sense. No. These things really don't make sense. I'm willing to buy dinosaurs exist, okay? I can buy that. I don't care. That's why we came to see the Jurassic World, okay? Problem. The dinosaur, Godzilla, right? They can't find him in his cage. Okay, now, they use like an infrared scan. Now, somehow that dinosaur is able to shut off all his body heat, which I don't buy, but whatever. Magic Godzilla dinosaur. Now, herein lies the problem. They say he has a tracker. And so they're like, well, we got to find his tracker. Let's drive to the command center to find out where his tracker is. Why would you not have that in his cage? There's all kinds of computers there. Or better yet, why not call up the command center? And I was saying this while I was watching the movie. Like, call them up and go like, hey, where is Godzilla? They'd be like, he's right there. Instead, they go in the cage to try to find Godzilla. And it's like, what? What kind of sense does that make? How lazy is that? And that's one of those things. It didn't need to be that lazy. You could have been lazier, and I would have had less problem with it. Have Godzilla break out. Just do that. Isn't that easier than, oh, and we can't find his tracker, so we have to drive to the just have him break out. I can buy that. I'll buy that for more than $1. Have him just roar, smash, and he's out. That's fine. And then, okay. So instead of cars, riding around Jurassic World Island, you got these little clear plastic bubbles. Okay, I can go for that. That's not a big deal. Question. Why would you allow the park guests to control the clear plastic bubbles on Dinosaur Island? What kind of sense does that make? And how stupid are those? Anyway, I could go on for hours on that movie. The movie was a pretty big loser. I'm still going to see the sequel because I had fun with it. It's a fun movie to riff. But man, that 2 writers to do that, and I knew the ending. I knew what was going to happen at the end. Yeah, the big dinosaur battle, whatever. That's cool enough. And then, like, the main character, Chris Pratt, and the female character, I don't remember the names. They're like, I guess we're going to stay together for survival. It's like, oh, God, how sappy can you be? Why? If you're going to do it, have some development throughout the movie. Don't just have it be like, oh, yeah, we spent, like, 5 minutes together. You know what I hope, though? I hope that rifle had a good home. That Marlin Trapper, man, the true hero of the movie. In any event, Marlin Trappers aside, I'm GeneralLotz, having gone on for 36 minutes and 32 seconds, and I'm going to wish you good magician and good schooled in magic, or whatever makes you happy.